Welcome to Staffing Stories, hosted by Andy Moss. Andy has been in the staffing industry for over 25 years, first as a recruiter, then eventually an account manager and business owner. This is the podcast where we sit down with fellow staffing owners to get the real stories of the successes, the failures, and the lessons learned along the way.
Well, welcome back to Staffing Stories. I'm your host, Andy Moss, and I've always enjoyed doing these conversations. And today I'm going to be interviewing Natalie Meadows with BGT Staffing here in my hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee. I've known that group for quite a while, and I reached out to him and said, hey, can I put some of you on the hot seat? And Natalie quickly raised both of her hands.
I like to be on stage.
Yeah,
microphone. It's where I belong.
Well, we're glad to have you, and I really appreciate you wanting to be on the show with us. And we are coming into the Thanksgiving holidays, and it's always good to give thanks to all of us around, especially in our community and stuff. And I know you guys are heavily involved in the Knoxville area, so appreciate that.
Yes.
What is something that I guess you're thankful for, I guess, in the staffing world these days that maybe we could start off with?
What am I thankful for? At the end of the day, it's both sets of my clients. It's the company and it's the candidate. Because if I don't have one, I don't have the other, quite frankly. So it's like, matchmaking, of course. But I actually like to lead my business of, really asking God, universe, whatever it is, to really just send me some people that might need some help.
Yep.
And that might make an impact on me, that I can help make an impact on them. I've been in the staffing business where it is throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping something sticks just to have good gross margin.
Yep.
And as the owner of this company, I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I'm thankful for my two sets of clients, the company and the candidates and the associates.
That is awesome. So tell us a little bit about BGT and just kind of what you're about and how you kind of got started. Just, fill us in.
Yeah, so there is a company called BGT Recruiting and Consulting, and it is owned by Jill Green and Christine Bell. They started it about 11 years ago and kind of focusing finance, accounting, marketing, HR, a lot of the higher level direct hire type positions. Jill Green and myself knew each other from the Chamber Ambassador Program. And if she had, say, placed a CFO and they called and said, oh, my gosh, I need an APAR person, she didn't really have that level of a candidate. So she would send it to me at the company that I was at. So we did that for a very long time, and Jill just kept giving me money. So she just kept passing it off to me. And I found myself just in a phase of life, children at a certain age, and just wanting to do some things different. My soul told me that I could slow down to do more. And as a mother of twins, I was kind of missing everything in the elementary school. So Jill and I sat down to have breakfast one morning, and she just said, why are we not doing this together? And I said, that's a really good question. So that was, I think, September of 2019. December of 2019, we were signing paperwork, and we opened officially our doors February 2nd of 2020, 6 weeks before a global pandemic.
And then the world turns upside down. It's kind of funny. I started my business in 2007, right in the middle of a
recession.
I mean, it's just uncanny how we get thrown curves right out of the gate.
We do. And sometimes if I have never been a business owner until now. So I'm kind of being mentored by these ladies. So if I try not to stay in a fearful lack mentality, but if I ever just get a little weird, me and Jill look at each other and we're like, hey, do you remember that time we started a business during a pandemic? So, and we just start laughing. And if we can, survive through that, surely we'll be fine across the board.
So walk me through the balance of, or like, I guess the mental, hurdles you had to come from, working for a company to now doing your own thing. Was that a hard transition, or has that been a tough one?
It's been the best decision I've ever made personally.
Awesome.
I love this question, and it's kind of out of the box. I like to live a life of truth and freedom and really just being a good human. I started this company with Jill and Christine. But before that, I was doing a lot of soul searching just in general, kind of had my own personal awakening of sorts. And I was doing this Zoom call I was taking a class of somebody that I was following on Instagram. And it was a woman about creating your own business and doing what you love. And she got to me on Zoom that day and she said, Natalie, tell me, why do you stay at your current company? And I said, for the money. And she goes, that's gross. And I kind of got offended. I was like, excuse me? And like, she leaned up to the camera and she goes, I said, that's gross. And so I kind of sat there and thought, I'm working for this huge company. I have a lot of people that are underneath me that are working hard. And, as management, I could go on a vacation if I wanted to. And I know it sounds a little dramatic, but I'm totally dramatic. But I thought, like, I'm kind of killing these people's soul, my employees.
Mm-hmm.
And that was gross. And so that's when my soul said, you can actually slow down to do more. And that's just how I'm choosing to live my life as a whole right now. So to answer your question in a very, very long-winded way, it was a transition, yes, financially, but I made the least amount of money in year one that I'd probably ever in my life, but I was happier than I'd ever been in my life.
Yeah. Well, there's when you work for yourself, you learn a lot more. I mean, when everything, the buck stops with you. And I know when I first started Enforce, you're having to recruit, you're having to run payroll, you're having to find the next sale. And I thrive in that kind of fast, changing world. But man, you really start to push yourself of what you can do.
Yeah.
And that to me was my kind of awakening moment. It's like, man, I didn't realize all the steps involved in this process. So it's
luckily I had learned that at my old company. I had wonderful training of every, because we were a large volume staffing. I mean, we were putting about 1,000 plus people to work a week. So I dealt with anything and everything every single day. So I was able to come in really kind of knowing, I didn't just do one job in staffing. I was responsible for it all. So, I know EEOC rules. I know, how to do people's payroll. I know how to go after a client that hasn't paid. So I've kind of done every position in my old company.
So when you see our industry change over the years, since you've been in it as long as I have, is what excites you with some of the technologies out there, or like what excites you with some of the changes that have gone through, or maybe what scares you?
I was fixing to say, what excites me right now?
We're still dealing with humans, and but we're not dealing with phone books anymore. We're not dealing with, everybody's at the click of a button now.
I'll tell you, I think what excites me, and I don't know if this is going to be the best answer, but I will say back in 2005, when I started in staffing here in Knoxville, I was doing outside sales, and it was a time where I could sell that my people were better than Andy's people.
Yeah.
I could sell that because I knew the type of due diligence that we were doing. And this was even at a company before the one I spent a decade at. The testing, the due diligence, anything that we were doing, I could sell that my people were probably better. And I believed in it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that anymore. And so I think what excites me the most is educating companies that staffing is just outsourcing right now. And, what I can guarantee for my company is when you call, you're either going to get one of the owners or my assistant. So I've been in the large staffing companies where people come and go, and a client will call in and be like, where's my recruiter? And they don't have a clue. So when I am selling my business, I just tell them, I can't, this is outsourcing. The way I tell people is I could clean my own house. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it. And so I'm going to pay a premium to have somebody else come in here and do it for me. And then I get time back, So, but I think that brings in the human aspect of it, because I tell them, like, I can't produce this magical, perfect person that you want, because we're all still humans.
Yep.
So I feel like even especially kind of post-COVID, we're all just humans. And I didn't like the days when I was selling that I could give them a perfect human, because that doesn't exist.
So when you talk about, we talked earlier a little bit before we got on the recording of, some of the things we have concerns about. Walk me through that, because you brought up something in that I want you to kind of describe to our listeners.
Yeah, so I think what concerns me the most right now, and maybe it's because of the phase that I'm in life. I have 2 kids that are 15, and being a parent that has worked since they were 15, their father has worked since he was 15. I own this company. We placed him, and he's my ex-husband. We placed him in a role as a president and CEO. And so we're both raising these kids as hard workers. But when you have to compete with this and compete with the schools and stuff, it's just really hard to teach kids, young adults, how to look somebody in the eye.
Yeah.
How to be able to sit in front of your boss when they're telling you, you kind of stink. I'm putting you on a plan, or whatever it may be. So I'm actually really interested and inspired of, because here's the thing. In 10 years, my kids and all their cronies are who you and I are going to be able to hire.
Yeah. It's a scary thought.
That should be scary. And so I'm actually, and even college age kids, like, I don't know that
they're prepared. I mean, literally, I see the same thing in my twins, which is kind of funny. You have twins, I have twins. Our seniors in high school. Well, they started at COVID, and they are kind of this lost class of high schoolers that they're probably a year or 2 behind where they should be. And it's a hole, but that is going to be our employable class in another 8-9 years. And we're not producing enough talent in especially in the United States. So what are we doing to get creative around that? But if we don't start focusing our attention to the next working class, it's going to be rough on everybody.
Yeah, but we also have to, and it's even hard for me because I grew up very as a salesperson, and very kind of masculine energy. Like, I would eat what I kill. I would get out and I would hunt and I would bust it, and I would, make sure on a rainy day I'd be out making sales calls because you were probably sitting at home. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. But
Could be.
that's how I was as a salesperson. And I was brought up in that world from my bosses and kind of my dad. But what I also think is important is our clients, those bosses, they have got to understand we're not wired that way anymore.
Yeah.
We're just not. And so I had a client the other day, tell me that, and I felt like this person was probably, I say it's in the generation of good work ethic, hustling, knowing what to do. And she just said, I'm just worried. I don't know if she's a self-starter. I don't know if she's proactive enough. I don't know. And I said, the further back we go, that's not in their DNA.
No.
And I don't mean to sound like a grumpy old man, but it's, it's a perfect thing. My son, BGT Recruiting and Consulting, they have FEI, it's Financial Executives International, and they have the chapter here in Knoxville. And they were having a guest speaker, and he was the past CFO of the Boston Celtics. Well, my son is a huge Boston Celtics fan, so I brought him with me. And I was talking to him in the car, and my son luckily is cut from my cloth. He has a ton of charisma and will do great in life. But he said, I told him, I said, when you talk to this man, shake his hand, look him in his eye, ask him for a business card. And he's like, why do I need his business card? I was like, because you don't know if you're in Boston one day, maybe you email him. But so the guy they spoke, the guy gave my son his card. Well, when Will's dad got there, he was like, Dad, I got his business card. He said I could text him. I said, no, he did not. You cannot text the past CFO. Like, that's just not, people put an email together.
How they think is always interesting, that in every generation is different. So
it is.
My generation thinks different than the ones coming up. But as employment professionals, recognizing that and trying to coach our clients, and almost, this is what you're getting, this is kind of like what we see, because sometimes our clients, they don't follow the things as close as we do as staffing professionals. And I think encouraging everybody that's listening to this is to understand the product that you're trying to place, the good and the bad, because that is why we get called to the table. I mean, that's why we get paid what we get paid. It's not you're taking an order and you're slinging a body over there. You really need to help the client out with answering these questions, because helping them manage these people is, good. I mean, I've already lost enough hair, but
luckily I've got plenty, but I totally understand.
But
I love the human aspect. I think when you've been in this business so long, you can be a little jaded of humans. But, I say it all the time. The old company that I worked at, we did a lot of industrial. And if we go back, say, 5 years, I would always say, if you don't live with somebody that makes $10 an hour, if you don't go to church with them, if you don't live next door to them, if you don't hang out with them, like, you really don't know how a lot of the world lives.
Yeah.
And I was so compassionate to, the 45-year-old man that had 5 kids and was crying because his paycheck was off $14.
Yeah.
And so that's real life for a lot of people.
Yep.
And so being able to make an impact for people, humans just in general, is why I stay in this crazy business.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about on this podcast, and I really appreciate you kind of giving us insight of kind of who you are and kind of what BGT has done. And I do think being conscious of our next employable group is going to be something that I think all of us could take focus in.
Yeah.
To wrap this up, I want to ask you a little question. That we're in the spirit of Thanksgiving. So what is the age-old answer to, is it pecan or pecan?
Pecan.
Pecan. Okay.
For sure. I've never said pecan a day in my life.
Well, we're from East Tennessee, so
Right.
it's, you probably ask someone down the road, they're going to say something different. But
I know.
again, thank you so much for being on this.
Thanks for having me.
And great to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you.
All right.
The Staffing Stories podcast is brought to you by 3DIQ, founded by recruiters for recruiters. 3DIQ's industry-leading product suite complements your submission process in Bullhorn from start to finish and helps you deliver a cutting-edge customer experience. Triple your placements with our powerful resume submission platform, candidate marketing, and client portal. Visit 3diq.com/stories to learn more.